Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of FPL Fanzone. My name's Nick, and in today's episode we're going to look at my final thoughts going into the Game Week 7 deadline. We're going to look at the update of the FPL Fanzone League standings, see how everyone's currently doing after 6 game weeks. Also look at the top transfers in and out this game week and have a look at why we think people are making those moves. And then a surprising AI wildcard. Some really interesting picks in the AI team for those that are wildcard in Game Week 7. And then lastly, a quick look at my team and my options going into the deadline. So, without further ado, let's get started. So just a quick look and update on the FPL Fanzone League. And as we know, I'm having a terrible time at the moment, down at 9th in the league, about 5.3 million in the world. So obviously there's still time to join this league using the league code here on the screen. I'll also leave a link to join the league in the comments below. But just a reminder that there is a prize up for a Premier League team shirt of your choice. It will be a current shirt. Obviously it'll be difficult to get some of the older ones. You'll also get you'll be the first person to have your name engraved on the FPL Fanzone trophy, which is yet to be delivered. So a quick look at this here. I'm down in 9th in the league at the moment, but a big shout out to Michael and Thanik, who are both sitting on 398 points after 6 game weeks. So a good start for both of those guys, and both sitting just outside the top million in the world as well. So don't forget to join the league. The code is Z2T3QP. Don't say that 10 times fast. But yeah, have a look, join the league. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's see how we get on this week. So looking now at the top 5 transfers in this week, and realistically there's not a huge amount of surprise in this list. Cole Palmer, coming off 4 goals in the last game, is obviously going to be a very, very popular choice at the moment. I think he has this ability to get a burst of goals or a burst of assists, and therefore get really high points in one game week. He does have some tough fixtures coming up. Nottingham Forest at home. Now that Chelsea attack is looking great at the moment, but they've been quite good defensively. Then he's got Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United and Arsenal all within the next 5. So not an easy run of fixtures to be bringing him in for. But having said that, Cole Palmer is on penalties, focal point for the team. I think he should be fixture proof. Certainly if he was in my team, I would just play him through all of those. Next up, we've got Umbremo, 24% owned now in the game. Obviously starting to hit the fixture turns for them, and obviously great fixtures coming up with Wolves, Ipswich, Bournemouth all at home, but also Man United and Fulham away. And Man United are just all over the place at the moment. McNeil, after his 2 goals, not a surprise to see him and his rise in the transfers in this week. He's still only 6.7% owned, so a real differential. And at 5.6 million, he's is a bit of an enabler in those teams. So for those that haven't gone with maybe a Semenyo or a Rodgers, there's not a huge amount of difference there in that price. Only maybe a big differential for those moving forward. And again, Everton have an amazing run of fixtures. Got Newcastle at home this week, but after that they've got Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton and West Ham. So good run of fixtures in the short term for McNeil. Next up, I was a bit surprised to see Jackson in this list. He's having a good start to the season. 4 goals, 3 assists, 5 bonus points. His XGI per 90 is nearly 1 a game, so he is expected to get a goal involvement according to the stats every game at the moment. But again, with those Chelsea fixtures, it's going to be a tough run over the next 5, 6. But obviously one of the big transfers out is Isak because of his injury at the moment. So people are dropping down to Jackson and freeing up some money. So that makes sense as to why he's coming in. And then just lastly, Gabriel. That Arsenal defence is still looking strong. I mean, their XG for the last game was 0.27. They somehow managed to concede 2 goals, but realistically, with Southampton at home and Bournemouth away in the next 2, and then you've got Liverpool, Newcastle and Chelsea after that. So I would say the Arsenal defence is fixture proof. They've proved that they can get clean sheets against Villa and Tottenham earlier on this season. So you would just play them through, and then after Chelsea away, they've got another really good run of fixtures, so you'd just be a set and forget moving forward. But let me know, guys, have you transferred in any of these players this week? Is there anyone here that you think I should be talking about? As I said, these are just the top 5 transfers in by volume of players transferred in by this week. Let me know in the comments below. Top 5 transfers out. Now, the top 3 I can really understand. João Pedro and Isak are both injured. João Pedro has an unknown return date. The latest update with Isak is that he'll likely be back after the international break, so probably into game week 8, but then he's still not certain, and then there is Callum Wilson would back as well, so there may be a rotation risk. So I can understand both of those two being transferred out. Eze, I had him in my team for the first 5 game weeks. He's flattered to deceive. He's been really close, had lots of opportunities. His underlying stats still look good, but he's just not converting, and Crystal Palace are not having a great time at the moment. So I can understand why Eze is also being transferred out, although my AI recommended transfer this week was to bring in Eze. So I'm really surprised by that. It looks like he's going to have another price drop again shortly. The bottom 2 confuse me a little bit more. Salah is still consistent, like scoring points every week. He's great in that. I understand his price point, so therefore moving off him to get to someone like a Palmer, who's obviously on real form at the moment. But if I had Salah, I wouldn't be downgrading him to Palmer. I think I'd just be keeping him. They've got some tough fixtures, but so have Chelsea, and I think Salah's proven year on year that he is absolutely fixture proof. So surprised to see Salah as the 4th highest person transferred out this week. I do kind of understand it if you're trying to free up some funds elsewhere to improve the team. And then lastly, Emil Smith-Rowe. And my guess is that people are just moving from here to McNeil in terms of that sort of cheap enabler, maybe moving to Rodgers. Again, just a bit of a surprise there. He's been fairly consistent considering his price point this year. Those are the top 5 transfers out this week. Next up, let's have a look at the AI recommended wildcard team for game week 7. Now, obviously, I use my wildcard in game week 6, so this is not much help to me. But for those viewers that still haven't used their wildcard and are potentially looking at using it for game week 7, now this is based on my budget available, which is I think is about 101.4 at this time of recording. But there's some real surprises in here. So starting in the back, we've got Flecken, Gabriel, Gvardiol and Robertson. No real surprises there. Flecken seems to be the chosen 4.5. They're not keeping clean sheets, but he is getting a lot of save points, so he's at least getting some points each week. Gabriel, Gvardiol and Robertson, Man City, Arsenal and Liverpool defences are the best defences in the league, so it's no surprise that you would just have those in as your set and forget free defenders as premiums there. When you go into midfield, though, it does seem a little bit more of a surprise here. So Palmer, no surprise in this week. 4 goals last week. He's looking great. That Chelsea attack is getting lots of points at the moment, and he's a real central point. He's on penalties. He's guaranteed 90 minutes. So I can see why Palmer's in there. Trossard is an interesting one. There's clearly some rotation risk there with Martinelli, but with Odegaard being out at the moment, maybe he's just got a bit more minutes expected in the middle of the park. Eze, again, I just spoke about him as one of the most transferred out players this week. I think the 3rd most transferred out player this week, and yet the AI is recommending bringing Eze into the wildcard team. They've got some tough fixtures with Liverpool, Nottingham Forest and Tottenham in the next 3. They've not really shown any form. As I said, his underlying stats are good, but he's just not converting right now. Umbremo doesn't really need to be spoken about. The main focal point for Brentford on penalties. Got lots of opportunity to score goals. With Wissa out as well, he has to be the main man. That's the only concern there, is that can he continue that form? Brentford are scoring early, but they're not looking great for the rest of the game. But as long as he's still getting points, it makes sense why he's still in the team right now. And then next up, frustratingly, is Gordon. Now, I transferred Gordon out in my wildcard, and he scored last week. Newcastle has some good fixtures with Everton away, Brighton at home. Chelsea away is obviously a tougher fixture now, but Chelsea are still conceding goals. The other thing with Gordon is with Isak being out, Gordon's now playing as the number 9. So he is now playing up front, will likely be on penalties in the short term until Isak is back. So I can see why he's been put in, but again, it's still surprising given the other options available in midfield. Then up front, Haaland and Wood. I have both of those in my team. They were recommended in last week as well as the AI team. So, and then really not much on the bench. Fabianski a 4.0, a Vandenberg, Face and Stewart on the bench. So not a lot of backup there if anyone gets injured. But I just thought that the likes of Trossard, Eze, Gordon were some unusual picks, and maybe be some differentials for people's teams for those that are looking at wildcarding in game week 7. Let me know, guys. What do you think of the AI wild team? Were you surprised? Are you going for any of those outside picks of Trossard, Eze, Gordon? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the captaincy options for game week 7. And no surprise, AI are recommending Haaland as the number 1 captain for this week with expected points of 8.8, a plum fixture of Fulham at home. But then if you look through all of the others, there's some really good fixtures and captaincy options this week. So you've got Palmer at home to Nottingham Forest, expected points of 7.8. You've got Saka at home to Southampton, a newly promoted side, expected points of 7.5. And a real thought for me is to have Saka. He's not quite as explosive as Palmer or Haaland, or Salah in that case, who's away to Crystal Palace again, who have been weak defensively this year. And then some outside punts more of Watkins, who's home to Man United, and Man United have been all over the place at the moment. There's a lot of speculation about Ten Hag and whether he's going to be keeping his job over the next couple of weeks. So there's a lot of pressure on that Man United team right now. So Watkins could be a great outside shout. And then Umbremo at home to Wolves. Wolves are still bottom of the league, haven't won a game all season. And I think with him being the focal point there and being on penalties, all of these are great options for captains this week. Because of what my ranking at the moment, I'm likely to just stick with Haaland and hope that he delivers. Obviously, he gave me a blank last week, so let's see what he does this week. So here's my current team for game week 7, as we are just a couple of hours away now from the final deadline. I've got Flecken in goal at home to Wolves, Saliba and Gabriel and Saka all at home to Southampton. I've got Trent Alexander-Arnold away to Crystal Palace, and then Semenyo away to Leicester, and Bremo at home to Wolves, Rodgers at home to Man United, Diaz away to Crystal Palace, and then Haaland at home to Fulham, and Wood away to Chelsea. Now, realistically, if you look at that team, there's nothing wrong with that. And while I had a really poor score last week of only 38, I look at this team, I look at those fixtures, and I go, there's goals, clean sheets. I could see a really strong week here. Now, I know this is a template team, but I don't know if it's so template at my current ranking in the global ranking. So I think there's a real good opportunity for me this week. No need to try and be too smart or do anything here. My only concern when I look at this is that potentially Diaz doesn't start the game. So I will be looking out for team leaks because they have the early fixture this week. I'll be tuning in to see if there's any updates on that Liverpool team news before the game week deadline. Now, my initial thoughts was to transfer out Diaz if he is dropped this week and bring in Palmer. But that would also mean that I would need to downgrade Trent Alexander-Arnold at the same time. And take a -4. So I think what I would do right now, just as I said, trying to play a little bit safe, don't want to take a points hit, is actually just hold off. If Diaz is dropped, just switch him out for Calvert-Lewin, who's at home to Newcastle this week. Play out this week, have 2 free transfers for next week, a little bit more information, and go from there. So overall, got 1 free transfer in the bank, 0.3 million ready to spend. But right now, looking at this team, the whole point of wildcasting last week is that I shouldn't have to use a transfer this week. As I said, my only concern is whether Diaz is going to start this week. He did play midweek in the Champions League, but overall, really, really happy with this team. And so, yeah, let's have a look at some of my options before the deadline. So going into game week 7 deadline, Actually, I'm quite in a good place with the team, as I just mentioned. My main option and preferred option now is to just do nothing. The team looks good. There's no injuries. We've got good fixtures. There is a potential that Diaz doesn't start, but I think he will, and probably get another 60 or 70 minutes like he's been getting all season. So with that fixture, I'm happy to play him for this week and maybe look at transferring him out in game week 8. Option 2 is really just a bit more of a knee-jerk because of Palmer scoring 4 goals last week. Chelsea do have some tougher fixtures coming up. So there is an option there to move Diaz to Palmer and then Trent down to Van der Ven. Now, obviously, Palmer looks great. He looks explosive. He's got lots of points potential there. And he's a great, he's no minutes risk at all. He'll be playing, 90 minutes every week. It does mean, though, that I have to drop down Trent to Van der Ven. And that Tottenham defence, while actually ranked 5th for in the whole league for expected goals conceded, I just have no faith in them in keeping clean sheets. I feel like it's certainly a big downgrade to move Trent down to Van der Ven, especially for a -4, and given that they're playing Crystal Palace this week, who are looking poor going forward. So right now, that's more of a knee-jerk option if Diaz is set to be dropped this week, but as I said in the last slide, I'll probably likely just sub him out for Calvert-Lewin and start there, and then look at my options again for game week 8. Once again, a big thank you to everyone for watching FPL Fanzone. If you've got this far into the video, please don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, and leave a comment on anything that you'd like to see covered in future videos. I look forward to catching up with you next week, and may all of your arrows be green.